Water is one of those basic fundamental life support requirements that a human being cannot live without. And yet, even in a creek like this, pristine as it is, if I were to immerse myself, drink fully from that beautiful source of wild water, I risk serious illness. That's something I might be able to manage if I'm having access to a hospital and support and antibiotics and modern medical treatment regimes. However, if I'm in a survival situation and I'm remote from those facilities and those services, then for me to get sick by ingesting a pathogen that's happily living in that watercourse now puts me at great peril. Dysentery is one of the things that still kills more human beings than nearly anything else. Diarrhea is a symptom of so many other illnesses, dysentery being one of them. But for me to drink recklessly straight from a wild water source is almost suicidal in this modern day. And I'm going to explain to you why. So I grew up, my grandfather told me that if I was to drink water from a water source such as this, clear running water, you can see it, there's no sediment, there's no cloudy stuff in there, it's bubbling over rocks, it's beautiful, it's pristine, there's life in it, there's water plants in there and small crustaceans and small fish. It should be the ideal wild water source, and I should require no treatment of it. That was in his day, and that was when I was a young boy, and it was probably, by and large, fairly accurate then. Today, in most countries, there's a lot more people. There's a lot more wild animals that are former domesticated animals or introduced species. Just on the way down here to film this morning, I encountered 5 beautiful red deer. But they are not a native species to this particular ecosystem. And as a consequence, they bring with them, as beautiful as they are, they bring with them pathogens in increased volume that are now living in that watercourse. Upstream from this watercourse, there are cattle properties. They bring in a whole stack of extra pathogens. There are wild pigs in this area, and there's a whole plethora of wild invasive species now occupying even our most remote wilderness areas. And as a consequence, that increased biomass of ungulates, ruminates, and other species has now contaminated these watercourses. Not to mention the impact of human beings on the whole ecosystem. Our pollution fallout, our herbicide use, our pesticide use, all these things have now made absolute certain that that watercourse is going to be less than ideal for me to drink from without any form of treatment. So I'm stuck in a survival situation. I need water. It becomes a decision that I need to make. Do I take that risk of ingesting a parasite or a pathogen from this wild water source untreated and then risk diarrhea, which will kill me in a matter of days left untreated? Or do I spend the time while I still have the energy level up to process this water? The base level, the baseline method of processing water that we can achieve in a primitive survival situation is to boil water. And we have no metal pots. And many people always ask me, if you are going to take one particular tool, man-made tool, modern tool out with you into the wilderness, what would it be? And I always say, a metal pot, a metal water bottle. And they're going, what, wouldn't you take a knife? And I'm going, I can make a knife. You've seen that now in the course today. The most challenging thing we face as survivors in a remote situation without modern appliances and support is to make something we can boil water in to make it safe for us to ingest and not get ill. If we get ill, we are now making a situation even more perilous than it already was. So what's in the water? Well, let's start at the top. The biggest stuff that we might even be able to actually see with the naked eye if we look close enough, are parasites in all various states of their life cycle. Now, they've got a longer term knock-on effect to our well-being and health, but we certainly don't want to just be training to survive and taking them on board. That's just crazy. You're going to end up needing medical assistance at some point to get your health back, because some of these parasites can be incredibly damaging to your health and well-being. Now, part of the strong body concept that I teach in survival is to have a strong body at the beginning, not just to keep it strong through life support measures, but to actually prepare for survival by being fit and healthy in your life. So if we start adopting that attitude of like, it's not going to hurt me or it's not that important, it'll compromise our health and well-being. If you've got kids, you're putting them on the back foot already because they're now enjoying the outdoors fantastically, but they are also bringing on board into their own systems all these parasites. A lot of parasites in a watercourse like this because of the amount of wildlife that surrounds this particular area. Other things that are in this particular wild water scenario here would include protozoa, so large single-cell organisms. And then we'd have bacteria, and then viruses, and we'd have a whole range of contaminants as well. So all those things we can't even see with the naked eye, and we must just necessarily assume that they are there. If we don't, we're going to make a terrible mistake, and we're going to potentially compromise our survival chances by going, it's okay, it'll be okay, I'll just do it anyway. If I've got the option to boil water, I should logically, with a rational thinking mind, take that option and not be a lazy person and just drink straight from the watercourse. So why boil the water? Boiling the water, if you think about the mechanism of it, we are basically reaching the point of pasteurization. Pasteurization means to get our liquid to a state of being hot enough where most of those, and I stress most, not all, most of those pathogens that are going to impact on our health are unable to support themselves. It's a habitat that they can't live in. So between 65 and 70 degrees Celsius is what we're looking for there. Now, I don't carry a thermometer in the field with me, so by having the water boil, I get a visual metric that has reached pasteurization point and gone beyond it. And that's the idea of boiling the water. Does that make me want to boil it for longer? Yes, because I want to use the heat as much as possible to treat and decontaminate the water that I'm about to take into my body. So the hotter it is and the longer it's hot, the more likely I've done more damage to those pathogens that would harm me were I to ingest them. Right? So that's why we boil our water. Why boiling? Boiling is the most reliable thing we can achieve, as we said before, in a survival situation. Without chemicals, without filters, without anything else, boiling is the fallback go-to point. It is the baseline treatment methodology. Now, without a metal container to boil water, we've got to make something that will achieve that outcome. And we're going to look at different options in the next section about what we can do to achieve the boiling of water and make it as safe as we possibly can. There are no 100% in this type of survival situation. You are still taking a risk, but the risk is significantly less than just diving into that creek and filling your stomach with untreated wild water.